Hey honeys, what's up? It's your girl Golden Jailene. Welcome back to my channel. If you think I look different, that is because I dyed my hair. I went in darker. This video is going to be a review on the Colourpop and Kathleen Lights eyeshadow palettes. This is the Dream Street palette. This is the Zodiac palette. I was going to review these separately, like have two separate videos on each palette. However, I've come to the realization that these work way better together, so I figured why not review them together. I was going to do a 3 looks, 1 palette for each of these, but I tried making looks. This palette is a little bit more difficult for me to use on its own. I mean, yeah, we have the Taurus. The Libra does not show up on my skin. I know that a few people have been saying that the Libra is a very good crease shade. That does not show up as a crease shade on my skin. The Dream Street palette has 4 shades that I could use as my crease shade if I don't want to use just one. Enough rambling, we're going to get into the review. Now, when I saw this, I honestly saw so many repeat shades to the Colourpop My Little Pony eyeshadow palette. When I saw Magical, immediately I thought it looked just like Flutterfly, which is this shade right here. So I'm going to swatch these next to each other. This right here is Magical and this one is Flutterfly. This one definitely has a lot more pink to it, the one from the My Little Pony palette. Magical is a little bit more orange, but honestly on the eyes they look exactly the same. I also thought that this shade right here, Stardust, was very similar to Blossom. This right here is Stardust, and this one is, what was it called? Blossom. This one is a little bit more pinky, while this one's a lot more copper. These two shades don't look that similar in the pans, but they have like the same texture. They're both satiny, white, creamy shades. This is Moony, and this one is Bluebell. Here we have Moony. And then here is Bluebell. Wow. Bluebell is, I feel, a lot more white. But again, on the eyes, these would look identical. Now, Kaleidoscope, I initially thought looked very similar to the shade Firefly. But Firefly is a lot more silver. Can't really tell. But I'm going to swatch it next to this shade as well, which is called Snoozle. Or Snuzzle, not really sure. Kaleidoscope is pretty silver, but next to Firefly, Firefly looks so much more silver. And I highly doubt Snuzzle or Snoozle is gonna look like it. Yeah, it doesn't, because this one's like it looks like a white in the pan, but when you swatch it, it's like one of those duochrome blue shades. And finally, a super obvious one is Mermaid Boy and Princess Sparkle. Now, this one is Mermaid Boy. This one has like a hint of brown duochrome. This one is Princess Sparkle. If there is a difference, to me it's that the one from the Dream Street palette, which is Mermaid Boy, is more pigmented. There are some shades that do overlap. Am I upset about that? Not really. That does kind of bother some people when there are overlapping shades in palettes, especially in the same brand. These are both Colourpop eyeshadow palettes. The one thing I really want to mention is that some of these eyeshadows have a ridiculous amount of fallout. Normally, I do not care about fallout. This is coming from a person that loves this eyeshadow palette. This eyeshadow palette is one of the best palettes I own. I've never had an issue with the fallout. These shades are so powdery. Not that I can complain because, I mean, I've been getting beautiful eye looks with this. But these 4, honestly Magical too, these 5 have so much fallout. That being said, I do love this palette. I can't complain with this palette. This palette really inspires me, and I was expecting it not to because it is just a neutral palette with a few pops of color, but I really love this eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna swatch all of these shades on my hand so you can see what they look like. Here we have the first row. This is Shooting Star, this is Magical, this is Stardust, and this is Twinkle. Can you see what I mean with Water Bearer? It's just on my finger and it got everywhere. So here we have Sweet Dreams, here is Water Bearer, Potion, and Spark. Water Bearer does swatch very nice, but when you put it on the lids, it's super patchy. I do like it, but it's not a color I tend to reach for because of how difficult it is to use. Finally, we have Kaleidoscope, Elfish, which does not swatch very nicely. I'm gonna go over it again. I'm only going over these once. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Elfish, Moony, and Mermaid Boy. those were all the swatches of all the shades in the Dream Street palette. I did do a demo using just this palette. I did not do a demo for this video using the Zodiac palette. I will be doing a 3 looks with 2 palettes instead. These work better together, so it made more sense to me to do 3 looks, 2 palettes. That's pretty much all I have to say about the Dream Street palette. The packaging on this is a little bit cheaper than the one on the Zodiac palette, but it is just a $16 palette. Wow, I didn't even mention that. It's a $16 palette for 12 eyeshadows. It does get very dirty. It's already stained on the front, and I will insert a picture, but when this palette came to me in the mail, this part of it was super stained and I had to clean it with a makeup remover wipe. I do keep it in its original box, which looks just like the packaging of the palette. The only negative thing I have to say about this palette is the fallout and kickback, but if you're careful, this palette works perfectly. I really like this eyeshadow palette. I find myself reaching for it more often than I expected to. Alright, moving on to the Zodiac palette. I honestly have to say I'm not as inspired with this palette as I thought I would be. I expected to be way more inspired with this palette than the Dream Street palette. First of all, let's talk about the packaging it comes in. It looks just like the palette, but this is black. When I saw Kathleen's video, she said she couldn't decide whether she wanted blue or black, and she did a little bit of both. I honestly would have preferred her sticking to one. I don't know, that's just me. I like it when the packaging matches, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. This one I believe costs $18 because it does come with a mirror. I don't want to blind you. Now, since it does come with a mirror, I expected it to be so much heavier than like the other palettes I have, but honestly, it's not that much heavier, which is nice for traveling. When I opened this palette, I already saw 3 overlapping shades with the Dream Street palette. And those 3 shades are the Cancer, the Taurus, and the Virgo, which remind me of Shooting Star, Sweet Dreams, and Elfish. And I'm gonna swatch those on my hand as well so you can see the differences or how they compare. This right here is the Taurus from the Zodiac palette. And this one is Shooting Star. It is a little bit lighter and it has a lot more pink to it, while this one is a lot warmer. But to be honest, do you really need both? This next shade right here is the Cancer, and here we have Sweet Dreams. Sweet Dreams swatched looks a lot more like the Gemini, which is the gold in this palette. Yeah, those look pretty similar. I honestly think if you mix the Cancer and the Gemini, you would get Sweet Dreams. I'm gonna layer the Cancer and the Gemini on top of each other. That looks the same. I did not think they would look that similar. Finally, we have the Virgo. Oh, that's not the best swatch. And Elfish. These do not swatch that pretty. That looks a little bit better. The Virgo is just cool toned while Elfish is warm toned. That's the only difference. I don't think they look that different on my eyes. I forgot to mention that there are 6 mattes, 5 shimmers, and 1 satin in the Dream Street palette. There are 5 shimmers in this. This one is more like a pressed glitter, and this one's a matte with glitters infused into it. 4 mattes. And I'm pretty sure Kathleen called this a matte, but this one's definitely a satin. It has like the same formula as Moony. Next, I'm going to show you swatches of each row. Here we have the first row. This is the Aries, this is the Taurus, this is the Gemini, and this is the Cancer. These are very pretty shades. Next, we have the Leo, the Virgo, which looks a little bit patchy because it is a dark brown. I'm going to put one more layer on it. The Libra, which is my least favorite shade in this palette, and the Scorpio. Next we have the Sagittarius, the Capricorn, the Aquarius, which is the one that swatches the worst, but it actually performs really well in the eyes, and the Pisces. The mattes in this palette are a little bit questionable. Aquarius, it's pretty, but you need like 500 layers of it to look good. The Sagittarius, I tried so hard to use this. I tried it on multiple occasions. The Sagittarius just does not work well in the crease at all. It's very, very, very patchy. It's also really dry. The Virgo is also pretty dry. The only one that feels pretty buttery is the Taurus, but the mattes in the Dream Street palette are not dry at all. I would say you're paying for an $18 palette, you're getting an $18 palette, but the Dream Street palette is $16, and this formula is fantastic. I'm not as happy with this palette as I expected myself to be, and it's not like Kathleen rushed this eyeshadow palette. I don't think so, because I recall her saying in her Dream Street video, when she talked about the shade Water Bearer, she said something along the lines of, it's not like this is a Zodiac palette or anything, and she had this suspicious look on her face, and it made me think maybe she's coming out with the Zodiac palette in the future.
Like the water. If you didn't know, I'm an Aquarius, and Aquariuses are water bearers. Not that this is a Zodiac collection.
This was in November, so I'm assuming she was working on this palette already. I don't know. That's just speculation. But my point with that is that I don't think this palette was rushed, but the quality is not up to par with the Dream Street palette. It could be better. Finally, I have a demo where I do this cute natural look using the Dream Street palette, like I said. So without further ado, let's get right into the demo. So I think I'm going to start off with the shade Magical. I'm going to apply this shade Magical in my crease. Next I'm going to take Shooting Star, and I'm just going to do the same thing with that shade. I want to deepen it up slightly, and I might regret this later, but I'm going to take the shade Elfish. I like that. I really like that. Just to make it a hair warmer, I'm going to take Potion. For my lid, I'm going to take Stardust. I'm just going to use my finger like I always do. I was going to take the shade Moony for my inner corner, but I really want to use Sweet Dream. For my brow bone, I'm going to use Moony. Now I'm going to take mascara and, like usual, I'm not applying too much mascara. To add some pizzazz, I'm going to take Spark and apply this to my lower lash line. I don't really like how that looks. It makes my eyes look irritated, so I'm going to take Elfish, and I'm going to try to make this look like my eyes aren't, like, bleeding. Then I'm going to apply a little bit of mascara to my lower lashes. And there you have it. I did a natural look using 8 eyeshadows from the Dream Street palette. Both of these palettes are currently in stock, so is the Zodiac collection if you are interested. Overall, I am really happy that I did try these palettes out, and I am going to continue using them. I'm going to try to make myself use the Zodiac palette a lot more than I have been, because I don't know, I just haven't been really attracted to it. That's it for this review, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Stay golden!